When you're living the moment, it's like being in an abusive relationship. You know, you're getting beaten by your partner, but you're like, but the sex is so good. This is a good entry point to the frustration of most visionaries. They have these most avid visions. It's like we're a visionary who's taken LSD and we've seen the craziest things. I've never taken LSD. I want to make this abundantly clear. Just based on what I see in the movies, like people talk about like the weird things that they see, the colors and how they're like connected to the universe and whatever. I think that visionaries have a very hard time, just like a drug addict has a hard time explaining what he sees to somebody who's never done LSD before. It'd be like you trying to explain like what salt tastes like. And I've never had salt before. You see something that nobody else can. So I spend a lot of my time trying to figure out how do I make this understandable to other people around me? Because I can't just take LSD and inject it into them, business LSD at this point. So how do I sound unhinged on this podcast. Maybe this is the intro.
That's fair. This can be the intro then. You know, everyone I think knows the story of fired from your job and then 48 hours later you had MAG started, right? But I don't think...
LinkedIn post, field goal, right?
Exactly. I don't think many people know the exacts of like what is going through your head during that time. Someone who is a very high A driven individual, what is the exacts that are kind of going through your head from during that 48-hour period? Is it something you had thought of before then that you just kind of enacted on, or was it really just a spur of the moment decision you made?
I had taken on some side hustle consulting just so that my skills were sharper. So during the year and a half I was working at the lighting company, I had taken on like 12 different side hustle consulting projects. When I got laid off, there was no thought of vacation. I seriously questioned my self-esteem, my self-worth, my abilities. Who's going to hire this 30-year-old guy at $200,000? It wasn't that hard to answer because I would hire that guy. It took me months to burn my ships.
I think the most interesting part of that is you actively saying that you didn't even want to be a business owner or an agency owner.
I've worked at an agency before. I know how hard it is. Every time there's a problem, it's your fault as the agency.
You mentioned lack of politics, like you don't like politics in the workplace. And I would say we're very good at keeping everyone on the same page, rowing the same way, and not being divulging in some capacity, right? But same time, yes, dealing with brands. You're still actively looking at, okay, let's just get a single brand. What do they need? You know, let's give it to them and ask them then, hey, did you get what you want?
The nice thing about Amazon is I didn't have to deal with politics. And the nice thing about running your own company is that you can get rid of politics by just saying my way or the highway, I'll fire you or whatever. And I haven't had to do a lot of that.
Culture index. And you talked about the culture of the leader at the top. What kind of effect do you think on the politics and on just the general internal scope of MAG has that had? How much impact do you think the idea of implementing culture index has on where the company is now?
People are attracted to the no political environment. They're attracted to learning. If you don't have the right culture in that top seat, everything underneath it will be corrupted. If you allow blurry lines and somebody starts like going out of their lines, that's when the politics start, almost always. I have conversations with my wife all the time, and I'm like, just because she's acting nice doesn't mean she is nice. Just because he is behaving a certain way doesn't mean that's who they are. And she's like, what do you mean? Don't you judge people based on their actions, not on what they say? And I'm like, yes, but just because they can do it doesn't mean they enjoy doing it. What's the consequences of doing something you don't enjoy for 90 days? Well, you start to deteriorate. What we did at my Amazon guys, we profiled people. We avoid the emotional extroverts. It makes the company easier to run, and it makes it more scalable. There were individuals at the company that fired me up, and part of me was addicted to that. It wasn't a good fire up. Now that I've axed that out of the system, it's much easier to run, and I still get fired up.
People are adverse to change, especially the more friction you add into that change. And that's something I've realized time and time again. And I think that kind of rings true when you're talking about knowing how to do it, not necessarily capable of doing it.
The frustration of most visionaries, right? they have these most avid visions. Visionaries have a very hard time, just like a drug addict has a hard time explaining what he sees to somebody who's never done LSD before. You see something that nobody else can.
Knowing you say, take this fire and run with it, do something amazing with it. And then people take fire and turn it into metal somehow, right? And that is just something that I see you very often, education, coaching, trying to get people to learn, trying to get people to come up with different ideas, as well as you bring that to the table a lot in MAG, especially. Just give them one thing and that thing turns into another. Multiply yourself, multiply more.
I hope you liked this video. If you want to receive future updates, slam that subscribe button.